Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Bridge HC Online. I am the lead pastor here at the Bridge HC, Larry Vinson. So glad you guys could join us as we wrap up our series called Repurpose, where we take a look at repurposing our faith into something more holistic. And what do I mean by holistic? Well, I mean a faith that impacts every aspect of our lives. That means that our faith has something to say about our physical lives, what we do, how we do it, right? How we talk, what we say, those kind of things. That means that my faith has something to say about my mental or intellectual aspects of my life. That means the things that I think or what I know to be true about Christianity. I have a responsibility to share those things and to know those things fully and confidently. It also means that my faith has something to say about my emotional state. That means that I have a right through Christ to be and to live at peace and to love other people. And then that's also what it means for my faith to speak out into or to have an impact in my relational life. That means that no matter who I encounter, no matter who I am with, I am called to love. And if you remember from our conversation last week, I even went as far as to say that the Bible makes it clear that if I hate anybody for any reason, then I cannot call myself a Christian, because Christians have no hate in their hearts. And if we struggle with that, but we find ourselves giving that struggle over to Christ, His grace is sufficient for us. So this is what it means for us to have holistic faith. It's a faith that impacts every aspect of my life, my physical life, my mental life, my emotional life, my relational life. And then here today, we're going to finish things out by talking about our spiritual lives. And for us to do that, I want to take a look at three separate texts from the book of Hebrews. Because if I think about, spiritual faith, I am thinking about the book of Hebrews and the author of Hebrews and what he has had to say throughout his letter. Now, we're gonna start by defining what spiritual faith is, and then we're going to talk about the benefits of spiritual faith in our second section, and then finally in our third section, we're going to talk about the practical side, the key to spiritual faith, and what we can do in order to make our spiritual faith strong. Okay, so like I said, let's start with defining spiritual faith as found from Hebrews chapter 5, starting in verse 11. Here's what the author of Hebrews has to say. He says, "We have much to say about this," and that's who Jesus is. He actually starts getting really deep into who Jesus is in these previous sections, and he'll continue to do so after this. But that's what the "this" is. So we have much to say about this, but it is hard to make it clear to you because you no longer try to understand. In fact, though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you the elementary truths of God's word all over again. You need milk, not solid food. Anyone who lives on milk, being still an infant, is not acquainted with the teaching about righteousness. But solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. Now, the author of Hebrews is frustrated, and rightfully so, because at this time of the writing of Hebrews, he expects a certain type of spiritual maturity, but he can't. He can't go as deep theologically. He can't go as deep spiritually as he wants because his audience, the Jewish people, have stopped caring. And not only have they stopped caring, but they've regressed in their spiritual understanding. They have become immature Christians. And according to the author of Hebrews, immature Christians cannot understand the deeper aspects of important or essential doctrines crucial to their faith. And those type of theologies that he wants to dive into are only for mature Christians. They're for those who enjoy solid food. And so he finishes this part out by saying, okay, well, what is a mature Christian? Well, not only are they the type of people who enjoy talking about these things, but they're constantly training to be better in their faith. This is why I love the book of Hebrews, because it really just calls people out for what is wrong and what they need to do. And one way that they do this is by defining what training is. That word, constantly training, is the same word that we get the word gymnastics from, and it talks about this gymnastic discipline. People who are constantly training themselves 24/7, basically, to get what they want. And for the mature Christian, maturity is what they want. The ability to discern between good and evil. And the only way they can do that is by continuously training themselves to be mature Christians, spiritually strong Christians. But as the author has already said, they can't, because they've given up. They've stopped caring. They don't care about maturity. They care just about status quo. And let me tell you, if there was ever a problem that we could define in the American church today, it is that. It's the same as the Hebrews. The American church and the people within it have stopped caring. They've stopped caring about maturing in their faith. They've stopped caring about diving deeper theologically. And as a result, they have regressed in their faith. We, as the American church, we as American Christianity, we have become immature. Doesn't mean everybody watching this is immature. I'm sure there is plenty of people watching this who are mature. I would consider myself a mature Christian. But as a whole, we as the church in this country have stopped caring about our spiritual wants. And it's not that we've stopped believing. It's just that we've stopped growing. And we've stopped growing so much that we've turned the dial back and we've regressed and we have become babies once again. The goal is not to get to a point and to stop. The goal for the Christian is to be mature. And we need to become mature again. We need to grow in our spiritual faith. And that cannot happen without constantly caring and continuously training to do what the author of Hebrews is telling us to do. And the proof, if you want to wonder right now, if you want that litmus test, excuse me, that tells you whether or not you are mature, it's right there in Hebrews. The proof is whether or not we can see the differences between good and evil in our culture. And this is where I say the proof is in the pudding, because when I look at the American church and I look at Christianity in our country, what I see are people who care far more about calling evil good and calling good evil. What I see are people disregarding the spiritual and biblical training for that of political control. And that has caused us to become immature Christians. So I think it helps us to understand at this point that we need a strong spiritual faith to combat the laziness, the immaturity, and the downright bad discernment that the American church has thrusted upon themselves. We need a strong spiritual faith. But what do I mean when I use this term, spiritual faith? Here's how I define it according to what we've just read in Hebrews chapter 5. Spiritual faith is the process, keyword there, process, of becoming mature in our relationship with Christ through a deep understanding and continuous living out of our faith. Let me say that again. A spiritual faith is the process of becoming mature in our relationship with Christ through a deep understanding and continuous living out of our faith. That is what we strive for. That is the goal. If I want maturity in my relationship with Christ, I need a strong spiritual faith. This is what I want you to hold on to as we head into our first set of discussion questions. Now, if you're new with us, welcome. I'm so glad you are here. And I want you to know that this is a safe place. So let me tell you exactly what's about to happen. You're going to get some questions up on the screen here in a little bit. And when they come up, I want you to pause the video and I want you to spend some time reflecting, if you're by yourself, reflecting and journaling the response to these questions. Really take the time to think through these and answer these questions as best as you can. Or you can respond to anything that you've heard thus far. If there's something that hits you, questions that you might have, things that you don't understand, write those down as well. Now, if you're in a group setting, these are the things that you're going to be discussing, okay? The things that I just said about personal observations or the questions that come up on the screen. Now, I encourage you to take about 10 to 15 minutes to discuss whatever it is that you are comfortable discussing. And if you're not comfortable at all, you just want to sit and be a part of it, you want to be a fly on the wall, then you have my permission to do so. Whatever it is to make you feel comfortable until you are ready to share what you feel and how and what you are thinking about what has been said thus far. Okay, and when you're done, you're going to push play. The video is going to continue, and then we're going to get right into our second conversation. All right, go ahead and push pause, and I'll see you in just a few. Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you had a really good conversation. Let's quickly rehash where we've been, okay? Spiritual faith is the process of becoming mature in our relationship with Christ through a deep understanding and continuous living out of our faith. And if we want a strong spiritual faith, and I hope that we do, then a strong spiritual faith is the only way that we can combat spiritual regression. All right, now that we've defined the term, now that we know what we're talking about, now that we know that if we want to stop being immature, that we have to have a strong spiritual faith, let's talk about the benefits. All right, outside of a mature faith, what are the benefits of having a spiritual faith? And I want to read from Hebrews chapter 10 so that we can have a better understanding of these benefits. Hebrews chapter 10, starting in verse 19, here's what the author of Hebrews writes. He says, "Therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened for us through the curtain, that is, his body, and since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart, and with the full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, and having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." Now, there's a lot to be thought through there. What do we take from this? Well, first, the first thing that jumps out at me is that the confidence of our faith, the confidence of a spiritual faith, comes from our acceptance of what Jesus did for us. If you haven't gotten this yet, let me just spell it out for you. Jesus is our faith. He's the center of it. He's all that we are and all that we do. It all begins and ends with Jesus. And if we want to have a strong spiritual faith, we need to have confidence in what Jesus has done for us. And since we have this confidence, the author of Hebrews tells us. And since we actually have Jesus, well, then we can start talking about the benefits of spiritual faith. There are 3 benefits as I see them as outlined in the text that we just read. Number 1, we can draw near to God. And it's not like we can get close to God timidly. No, the author tells us that we can draw near to him with authenticity and assurance, with confidence, with boldness. We can come into the very throne room of God, and we can ask for whatever it is on our hearts. We can conversate and share whatever it is that we are struggling with. We can celebrate. There is nothing that we have within us that is not enough for God or too much. There is nothing that we could ever bother God with. Do you get that? So many times I have people tell me that I don't talk to God because he doesn't care about my problems or he has other things to worry about. That is a lie. It's a lie. God not only cares about your problems, he cares about you. And you can be real with God when you come close to him. That's a benefit. That's a reason for spiritual maturity. And that's not the only one. The author of Hebrews continues and he tells us that we can have hope, that God will do what he has promised us. If you are waiting for God to speak, or you're waiting for God to answer a prayer, then you can rest assured today that he will do what he has promised. Nothing more, nothing less. If God says he's going to do it, he is going to do it. If God says he's going to give you peace, he's going to give you peace. If God says that he is going to help you, he is going to help you. It may not be the way that you thought, but he is going to help you. That's a benefit of spiritual faith. But it's not the last one. No, the last one, according to the text that we just read, is that we can love and encourage one another. And you might be thinking, wait, how is that a benefit? Guys, let me tell you, life goes a whole lot better when we love and encourage one another. If I am mature enough to look past the issues of the person in front of me, regardless of how I feel about them, regardless of whether I disagree with them or not, if I can look past that person and feel love for them, life is going to go a lot better. These are the benefits of spiritual maturity. We can draw near to God, we can have hope in God, and we can love like God. That is what spiritual maturity is all about. It gives us confidence in our relationship with Christ. And then it allows us to be close and to build trust and to better our relationship with others. There is nothing better than spiritual maturity. This is something that we should want, not something that we have to laboriously work through. It's something that we should care about, that we should have passion about. This could change the very face of Christianity if we all took this seriously. And if you need reasons to do it, there they are. Spiritual maturity draws us close to God. It builds trust with God. And it betters our relationship with other people. Think about that as we head into our second set of discussion questions. They're going to pop up here in a couple seconds. Go ahead and push pause. And then when you're done, when you're ready, come on back. And then we will start our third section. Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you had a really good conversation. Let's rehash quickly what we talked about in our last section. Spiritual faith gives us confidence in our relationship with Christ. And the benefit of that confidence is threefold. we can draw close to God. We can build trust with God. And we can better our relationship with other people. That is the benefit of a spiritual faith, right? And thus far, over these last couple of sections, we have given you reason to want a strong spiritual faith. To be mature has its benefits. And you might be sitting and you're thinking, okay, I want to have this, right? I want to thrive for deep understanding. I want to continuously live out my faith. I want to draw near to God. I want to build trust in God. I want to better my relationship with other people. So how do I do it? Well, that's what this third section is going to deal with. And in order for us to do that, I want to read probably one of the most famous verses in the entire Bible. And if you are a churched person, if you've been to church, you have a history of church, you probably know the verse that I'm about to read. If you're not churched, or if you've never experienced faith in any real tangible way, don't feel left out here, right? Because one, I'm about to read the text for you, but understand that what I'm about to read is something that needs to permeate our hearts and our minds. This is probably one of the most practical pieces of advice that the Bible can ever give you about your faith. Here it is, Hebrews chapter 12, starting in verse 1. Here's what the author writes. He says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." Now, what do we learn from this? So a couple of things. One, as Christians who have the support of others, we can have a strong, long-lasting faith as long as we keep our focus on Jesus. So this is what a strong spiritual faith comes from. This is what we need to do. We need to have the support of those around us while we focus and follow Christ. But here's the thing. In the church today exists two types of people. You have the first type of people who will come in and with the goal of connecting with other people. They want community. They want to have friendships. And so they'll come to church for that, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? We should want to come to church to build community, right? This is what Hebrews 10 talked about in our last section, right? We should have people in our lives who spur us on to continue our faith. That is crucial. And so these people will come in and they'll go to church and they'll fellowship with others. They'll go to Sunday school if Sunday school is offered. They'll join a home group because that's what they're really looking for, to live life with like-minded people, right? And they will even serve on teams throughout the church because they love the people that they're helping, that they're serving, or the people that they're serving with. But then it ends there. See, they will focus on community, but they'll forget about Jesus, right? And they might learn some practical advice about their faith, and they might, try to do this and that, but they really won't try to deeply understand who Jesus is and the different theologies that come with that, okay? Now, that's one type of person. The other type of person, the exact opposite. They come to church because they want strong biblical teaching. They come to church because they want to deepen their understanding. They come to church because they want to have theological discussions and they want to have intellect that far surpasses where they've been, so that they can grow in their knowledge of who Jesus is and why he has come. But they won't connect. They won't fellowship. They won't go to a home group. They don't care about living life with other people. They don't care about serving in teams, right? They don't do any of the things that build community, right? They become what I've termed to be church ninjas, which is somebody who at the very end of service pops smoke and leaves, right? Because they don't want to fellowship. And then they'll instead focus on Christ, but they'll forget about the community. And I'm telling you, according to Hebrews chapter 12, that you can't have one without the other. Yes, focusing on Christ is the first thing that we should do, but we cannot forget about community. We can't. A strong spiritual faith comes from both. It comes from the support of those around us, as we talked about in Hebrews 10, but it also comes primarily through focusing and following Christ, as we talked about in Hebrews chapter 5. So what's the practicality of all this? What can you do today? I have two things. Number one, just like the author of Hebrews did in Hebrews chapter 11, I want you to come up with a list of people in your life that you can count on through thick and thin to help you and to encourage you and sometimes even kick you in the butt so that you can continue to not only keep on going in your faith, but that you can deepen your faith. Who are those people? Define the tribe. Now, in my life, I got about 5 or 6 of them who I count on no matter what, who are always there for me, and I'm always there for them. Who are those people? Write those names down. That's the very first thing you're going to do. And then the second thing is, what can you do today to better focus and to follow Jesus? Ask your tribe. Ask the people closest to you. What about your faith? What about your relationship with Jesus do they think you could do better in? And write those things down and ask God to help you through those things. You know, this is how we focus. We focus through conversation with God. We can draw near to him. And no matter what we want to talk about, he will provide an answer. He'll give us rest. He'll give us peace. But he'll also give us other people. These are the two things that we have to do. We have to define our tribe, and we have to make requests to God. That's it. It's as simple as that. If we want to run this race, continue our faith to its end, then we can't do it without the help of others. And we certainly can't do it without following Jesus. This is what I want you to focus on as we head into our third and final set of discussion questions, okay? Go ahead and hit pause when the questions come up. Take as much time as you need to either reflect or discuss. And when you're done, come on back and we will wrap things up. Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you had a really good conversation. Let's real quick rehash the things that we've talked about thus far, okay? In our first section, we talked about spiritual faith as the process of becoming mature in our relationship with Christ through a deep understanding and continuous living out of our faith. And that's really the only way that we get to combat our spiritual regression, which is rearing its ugly head in this country, right? But we then talked about the benefits of a spiritual faith, right? As if maturity wasn't enough, right? If we have this maturity, we have a confidence to be close to God, to build trust with God, and to better our relationship with others. And we talked about how God cares about what we have to say, regardless of how we think God is going to respond to our cares and our needs and our problems, right? And then in our last section, we talked about how a strong spiritual faith comes from faithful support while focusing and following Christ. These are things that we cannot separate. If we want to have a mature faith, a strong spiritual faith, it comes primarily through Christ, but secondarily through others. And so this leads me then to this one thing that I want you to understand, the one thing that I want you to think about. Each and every week we've talked about these different parts of our faith. We've we said there's one thing that you just need to focus on. Here it is for us, and it's the goal. Spiritual faith matures us. This is really what it comes down to. Do you want a mature faith? Do you want to have a deeper understanding of Christ? Do you want to continuously live out your faith? Because if you don't, then this can go nowhere else. There is no more growth. If you don't want a mature faith, then there's nothing else I can do. But if you do, then heeding the advice that the author of Hebrews has given us over 3 separate chapters will be crucial to that maturity. So maybe you're sitting here and you're thinking, I want this kind of maturity in my life, and I want to become stronger in my faith spiritually by having that deeper understanding and continuously living out my faith towards Christ to other people, and you just don't know where to start. Well, this is where we can offer you some help. Reach out to us. All right, get a hold of us through our socials. Email me personally. Go to our website. All of those things are up there on the screen right now for you to reach out and to connect with us. And I guarantee you, we won't judge you. We won't look down upon you. We will answer your questions to the best of our ability, because we want to help you in your faith journey. We want to walk alongside of you as well. You know, the best way, though, to do this is by joining us live. Each and every Tuesday night, we have worship service. We don't do Sunday mornings. We do Tuesday nights because we don't want to be in competition with other churches. We want to actually be a part of the Sunday morning experience at other churches, that we can help change the culture of Sunday morning. And that's why we meet on Tuesday nights. But each and every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. we have worship. 6:45 we have fellowship. So if you don't want to come to worship, you can still come at 6:45 or after and feel like you haven't missed a thing. And then at 7 o'clock we start our table conversations, just like it was here today on the video, and we welcome everybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your past is. I don't care what your philosophies are, your theologies are. I don't care. I care about you, and I want you to come and join us on Tuesday nights at 6:30. But maybe you're just a little hesitant and you don't want to just throw yourself into something like this. I totally get it. That's why we have an online version that meets live on Tuesday nights as well via Zoom. Now we live Zoom the sermon, and then we have a table leader who is on Zoom as well to lead through the questions that we go through and the conversation. So if you'd rather join us live online, you can do that by going to online.thebridgehc.org. And of course, as always, any way that you can help us financially would always be a benefit to us. We are a brand new church with a lot of big dreams and a lot of big goals, and we would love for your help in achieving those. Okay, so whatever you can do to help, whatever you can do to join us, we welcome it 100%. Now, next week, I'm really excited because we're starting our new series called The Jesus You Never Knew. And this is all about combating these negative stereotypes of who Jesus is and these false depictions in culture that people have about Jesus, and showing you through the Gospels, through the 4 Gospels in the Bible, about who Jesus actually is. I'm really excited to be starting that with you next week. I hope you can join us live, in person or online. But if not, we always welcome you right here on our YouTube channel. So that will do it for me, everybody. I will see you again next week. But until then, as always, peace, love, and soul.